And welcome back to The Walking Dead. Okay, so this bears a bit of explanation. This and the next level are a bit on the long side. And to be honest, I'm not exactly a big fan of either, for reasons that are certain to be discussed at length at some point, given their, well, length. So I decided to freshen up the experience a bit by using a katana skin. I do like how Wang calls out the rather nonsensical sword fight here.
What was the reason? Zilla owns every cop shop from here to Okinawa. Maybe he must have paid her.
Of course, what would work better than just admitting they have no idea why they're there would be explaining it. Can't have it all, I suppose.
There he is. Excuse me, Mr. Wang. Do you think you could take a little longer? We're really enjoying dying of dehydration in here.
Take a pill. I'm in the docks.
Can you see the Manticore from where you are?
What the hell's a Manticore?
It's a monster with the body of a lion, the head of a man, shark teeth, and a scorpion tail.
And there's one here?
It's also the name of a ship. A tanker, actually.
I've seen plenty of ships, but no tankers.
He must be on the other side of the dock.
Figures.
He's doing his best, dear.
That's what I'm afraid of, darling. Find dock number 5. We're downstairs.
I like their style, hot and bossy. Sure, you around like that.
You're going to need to work on the hard part.
Bitch.
This key shrine unlocked a barricade which would have forced us to backtrack in about a minute, so there's not much point in it, but if you miss it, it's kind of annoying.
There's a crane attached to the ship. I need to get this out of my way.
Okay, so back to the axe I'm using here. Shadow Warrior offers quite a few custom katana skins that you have access to if you ordered or bought it by various means.
The lights are out.
They all are references to different games, and there's, I think, 5 or 6 of them in total. I have 2. While they don't differ in functionality, handling or damage, they do have some custom stuff, usual an animation or 2. Usually when offhanding them or using the quote reload unquote, which normally causes Wang to wipe the blood off his katana. Anyway, the melee weapon we'll be using for this and the next level is called the Walking Dead Ice Axe, and hopefully it'll make the fights a bit more interesting to watch, since there's just not that much happening gameplay or design wise during them. Probably the biggest new thing in this level is that it seems to be focused on objective-based gameplay as opposed to just finding the next key shrine. I've talked about this a lot during chapter 4, I think, and let's face it, this level is a pretty good example of how not to do it. If I can draw you a little map, we started at the arena where we are right now. Then we have to go all the way right through the tents in order to get our briefing and turn off the power. What this does is allow us to pass the fence, which is currently to the left of us, so we have to go through the entire thing again. And yes, we will make this track one more time. This may sound unnecessarily angry, I don't really mind it that much. Or wouldn't if the fights were a bit more interesting. But this level has a serious problem with flyers. There's just too goddamn many. Well, the fact I'm trying to shrapnel hunt them using the crossbow secondary isn't helping either. Still, the issue is this. We don't really have a weapon that would be really effective against them. In a way, katana deals with crawlers, or the crossbow deals with shielders. The most efficient thing to use against them is the dog wolver, but that only works against small numbers. And not when they fucking cloud the sky and darken the sun. Incidentally, this is actually one of the few situations in which I'd consider having protection useful, provided you sunk at least 3 chi crystals into the thing and it protects you against ranged attacks.
All this rain reminds me of that woman.
What, poison? Who is she?
Rest assured this is important. I would also advise you to note Hoji's tone of voice. The perk we are getting is called Inner Reserve. It adds 20% to our stamina meter and effectively allows us to do another dash. And I should have gotten it much sooner. Anyway, protection against flyers. The thing is, against flyers you don't really want to dash because it messes up your aiming so much. This negates protection's biggest weakness. Of course, it doesn't help you deal with them any faster, it just makes it safer. And the biggest problem I have with them is that the swarms just take too long to kill. Now this platform can actually be jumped way earlier than I did, but let's just say I learned my lesson at the dev boat. Besides, waiting here isn't really that much of a problem given the pretty scenery. This is the main reason I believe the backtracking here is tolerable. This level just looks gorgeous. Okay, it's a dock, so you can't get any fancy architecture in there, but the storm and rain effects provide a really cool backdrop, and the lightning works really well with the lighting. It's enough to almost make me suspect that the main reason why we have to run through this section fucking 3 times is that someone just put way too much time and effort into it, and you'd fucking better learn to appreciate it, player. I mentioned before that I'm not a big fan of the fights in this level, and if you were paying attention to what we are facing so far, it should be fairly obvious why. We literally aren't fighting anything we haven't fought before. I understand that a game has to have a certain length and you can't really have all the fights being completely original, but come on, why for example not let us fight the SWAT more? The game already as much as admitted they make no sense there.
Getting back is going to be a bitch.
And Wang displays his gift of prophecy again. Getting back is indeed going to be a bitch, and that's why I lingered my camera on all the flyers. They also are, incidentally, connected to another reason why I think this level isn't very well thought out, and that's difficulty. Up till now, this game had a pretty nice difficulty curve. This level is a fucking spike. Think, if you will, of the last chapter where a multiple warlord fight was a pretty huge set piece. From now on, they become standard. This wouldn't be bad, my biggest complaint with it is that it comes a bit too early, given the length of the game. However, this level effectively murders the pacing of every fight, by always finishing it with a swarm of flyers. Normally you see what you're dealing with and you can plan accordingly. You get to deal with the warlord first, or you get to deal with the birdman turning the level into blood hell, or whatever. Here, whatever you fight, you have to expect that there will be flyers and you will lose health, and just takes all of enjoyment out of it. Because taking down flyers is a slow and painful process, pretty much no matter what you do. I had problems here, and mind you, this is normal. Cast, if you will, your mind back to the last video and remember what I said about flyers on higher difficulties. A bit paradoxically, playing this level on Insane is actually a bit more fun in the masochistic way, because it turns dealing with murders of flyers from boring cleanup to a dance of death, but that's kind of beside the point. This level feels like the developer simply forgot what made their game good. The perfectly paced combat of Act 1 just isn't here, and interesting ideas and parts are few and far between. Speaking of those, we are entering our first mother minefield. I am making this a bit longer than it ought to be by using the shurikens, and I apologize, but this is another reflex you simply learn when you play on the hard difficulties, because ammo conservation is a thing, and this is one of the few situations in which the shurikens are actually good. Naturally, it does allow for a bit of applied wank thematics. Count with me! Silently, obviously. The answer is 4. Now, while shurikens do have their time to shine against mother demons, you definitely don't want to use them in the next section. This is a fight that killed 4 of my recorded runs and ultimately caused me to go with this one despite playing like shit in the rest of it. It's not hard, but it's difficult on concentration. The way mother demons work can make a single mistake, a single missed shot, potentially lethal, due to simply setting off a chain reaction. Okay, so it is a gimmick fight, but it's hard, it's fair, and it's fun. It also helps if you cheese it a bit like I did and just funnel them through the gate in the fence. They use this particular kind of ambush several more times in the game, so you're not missing out on anything here. I will definitely fight one of them in the intended way of rushing in and try to not get blown up from all sides at some point. Now in just a moment I'm about to get a really weird perk. It's called fire resistant and it does exactly what it says on the label, although we don't really know what the numbers are. That is a very specific reason why I'm using it. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the enemies. Fire in this game is usually used as an environmental barrier and as such is impassable, perk or not. Oh, and this one gets me no matter how many times I play through this thing. From this level on, it's a fairly safe bet to expect an egg behind every corner. With a bit of luck, you'll escape with just mild burns. And a deep phobia of the word egg roll, but that's for me and my therapist to handle. Now here's one of the more insidious secrets of this level, and again it's behind one of those painted doors. This level actually has only 6 secrets, which I think is the least in the game, not counting boss levels which don't have any. Of course, unlike those, this area is fucking huge, and trying to scour every single bit of it for a possible 6th secret is a massive pain in the ass. I mentioned before that they're trying to do objective-based gameplay here.
Alright, dock number 5.
And after our back and forth, we finally reached dock number 5. I hope you're feeling some satisfaction, because I sure as hell don't. Give me a color-coded door over this shit any day. Now there's a possibility I haven't really talked about, but from the state of the level, I believe it's quite possible it's a late fit. The dock number 5 area is actually fairly well done. It has 3 secrets just within itself, which is on par for the rest of the game, and the fights we're getting into here are actually fairly interesting. Case in point, this arena will off you if you don't know what you're in for. It really has just the normal assortment of low-level enemies, crawlers, birdman, mothers, but they come in numbers, and most importantly, they spawn all over the place. We've dealt with this kind of thing before, however that was before Mother Demons got introduced. And the consequences of a Mother Demon sneaking up on you, which is all too likely in this particular arena, are kind of devastating. Another thing adding to the pain in the ass factor of this particular fight is the arena layout itself, because the huge construction in the middle usually means that a mother or two will get stuck behind a wall or a column where you can't see them, and they'll just spend the rest of the fight happily spawning eggs and chucking them at you. If you get lucky, they decide to charge at you and blow themselves up somewhere in the process. If not, you're dealing with a constant stream of rapidly moving explosives. And yes, before someone points it out, I am actually making this fight unnecessarily harder on myself. There is a very simple way to cheese it. Climbing up the scaffolding in the middle of the arena will make all the enemies have to go through exactly one path in order to get to you, which makes it very easy to pick them off. But where's the fun in that? I think I said before that this is a really well done fight, and I stand by it. In addition to the already described Mother Demon shenanigans, the arena makes it so birdmen actually get pretty dangerous, because the place is essentially divided into 2 alleys. They are just great for bullet hell patterns of fireballs going down them. Now this particular secret is a great example of something I've shown off before but never really talked about, and it's what I call Mother Demon designation. Essentially, after the fight is done, a single Mother Demon spawns at the base of this staircase. It is, obviously, of no threat whatsoever, but it points you on the right way. This technique has already been used 2 chapters ago in the room with the toxic waste tanker, where the layout made it somewhat difficult to figure out what the way on was. It's a very nice way of making sure the player doesn't get lost, or pointing out a not totally obvious path in some of the more elaborate environments. Now, if you remember way back in chapter 3, when we had our first turret section, I mentioned that this game goes a long way in order to make you actually like them. And if you haven't played this level, you wouldn't believe how unbelievably cathartic it is to finally have access to something that rips the fucking flares right out of the sky. In your entire arsenal, there is simply nothing that compares to the efficiency and speed with which the turrets rips through all their fucking... I think you get the point. The second wave of this battle is land-based enemies, and it takes place on part of the arena in which you fought before. But it's better if you didn't, because in this case you get to keep all the lovely explosives.
Now that's what I call bad karma.
A somewhat interesting note, it is entirely possible to mess up the jump to the platform where the turret is, and in case you manage to do that, you're pretty much fucked. Because the enemies will spawn either way, and, well, good luck climbing that scaffolding now. It's not an entirely unsalvageable situation, but platforming in this game isn't very fun, and platforming when there's fireballs and flares raining down from the sky, you can probably imagine the rest. I will freely admit I have absolutely no idea what they're saying here, and considering it's not subtitled, you're probably not meant to. There is however one thing it does remarkably well, and that's thrown out the singing you hear from the outside, indicating a secret.
That was definitely gunshots, love. That'll be our little friend, writing his name in the snowbank again.
You really think he'll get the note sort of copy for us?
Why wouldn't he? He has to be here on Master Zilla's orders.
Remember what we were told about him? Effective, but unpredictable.
Nothing we can't handle.
Zilla knows about the legend. He wants the whole artifact.
So, when we meet Kyokugami,
You want me to be your wingman? Don't worry, I got your back.
that's not what I meant. They think I'm here on Zilla's orders.
Sure.
Please someone tell me you managed to find this place on your own, because I had to look it up in a guide even the first time I was trying to get all the secrets. There's an obviously suspicious wall outside, but in this game what you do to obviously suspicious walls is divider them, not fucking crouch. I'd also like to challenge you a bit on the plot front here. Try to keep track on the relation between Wang and Zilla, because I can't make any sense of it. Are we still working for him? Are we working against him? I simply don't know. I said before that this game is essentially Hoji's story, and that's the part of the plot that makes sense. What puzzles me is Wang's motivations.
Now look at that. Meet piñatas.
This encounter brings up a fresh and new dick move that the game could really have gone without. See those barrels strewn up all around the floor? They don't blow up. As a matter of fact, all they do is get in your way. Mostly because Wang dashing into an object with slight elevation can have wildly unpredictable consequences. It can stop you, it can ignore it, but I've also been launched upwards into the air before. There's two really nice graphical touches I'd like to point out in this fight. One is that the shield jerk's shields get more lights, eyes, thingies lit up as they get enraged. The other one is the warlord arriving by elevator as opposed to the usual magical portal. I can just imagine him standing on the upper floor, shuffling his feet while hearing the sound of battle and going, come on, arrive already! Alternately, warlords having to put up with elevator music. Just throwing it out there. Now, in a short while, we'll see another reason why I consider the second half of this level vastly superior and actually fairly well done as opposed to the rather boring first one. We'll get another opportunity to exact horrible vengeance on flyers. This herd spawns in pretty much the worst area possible for them. Not only they spawn in pretty much the perfect distance for some group wing clipping by Sticky Bomb, they also spawn right between two of those electrical boxes. And the result, if anything, is even more cathartic than the turret section.
They paint this picture of the Whisperer everywhere.
You seem obsessed.
Let's just find her and get out of here.
Way ahead of you, Wang. I talked about this 2 chapters ago. Didn't you read the script? On a side note, I'll hold off on this upgrade a bit in order not to clutter up the video with multiple upgrade screens where they aren't needed, like the last time. At this point we get pretty much all the chi upgrades I really need anyway. And then there's this.
Flamethrower. Always wanted one of these. Ooh, flamey.
Okay, now we get to upgrade stuff. Soaring Feather decreases the time we need to fully heal from 6 seconds to 4. It's handy, but not exactly necessary. I just like my healing spell fully upgraded. As for our new weapon, we are, right off the bat, buying its secondary fire mode. Okay, so the Flamethrower. I'd love to be proven wrong on this, but it is by far the worst weapon in the game. I'm going to demonstrate it a bit on the SWAT team over yonder, so just watch how effective it is. As for the mechanics, it's what you would expect. It has a short range, you can keep it up for a fairly long time, and it sets enemies on fire, which does damage over time. In theory, anyway. It also has a secondary effect, where sometimes enemies that are on fire turn to run. The problem with that is it only works on smaller enemies, and you usually don't want those to run away.
Come for the shootout. Stay for the sword fight.
As you've probably noticed, the damage it does is really tiny. And before I get accused of not choosing a representative sample for my experiment, no, it does not get any better against demons. As a matter of fact, it gets worse, because even a lowly crawler can get away and survive being set on fire, and then get in a lucky hit, because you forgot about it.
Half the man you used to be. Demon. Whatever.
Putting aside the open defiance of anything I just said because of the secondary fire, I'd like to point a bit about the one-liner Wang just dropped. Now, "You half the man you used to be" is one of the things that Wang says in the original when he slices an enemy in half. And the inclusion, delivery and difference in those lines, in my opinion, sums up the difference between the two games perfectly. I've already talked about it a bit in the thread, but in my opinion, Wang's at his best when he's at his wit's end. When he simply fucks up one-liners. Okay, back to the flamethrower talk. As you've probably seen, Firebomb is a fairly powerful grenade that hits a huge area and is especially useful for clearing out small spaces like this. On a side note, you're not losing anything here, I can't understand them either. Again, no subtitles, no dice. The little stop I make to take in the environment is actually pretty goddamn important and is going to save my life in the next battle.
Well, if it isn't our own personal savior.
And he only left us stuck here for half our lives.
Sorry, ladies. I'm just a simple moisture farmer.
When Zilla told us you might cause a demonic invasion, we thought he was exaggerating.
But really, darling, we're quite impressed.
Wait. Zilla knew about the demons?
He said that if you had done your job, none of this would have happened.
Mizuyaki had his own army.
Excuses are unbecoming, love. The bottom line is, you were sent to get the Nobutsurakage.
And like us, you failed.
You ladies have a strange definition of failure.
He's got it?
Curiouser and curiouser.
Whenever you two are finished, we should probably go unfail your mission.
Okay. We'll take the high ground and help you navigate to the Manticore.
External communications are down, but this should work within the perimeter.
Test 1, 2. Oh look! You got one thing right.
Don't be sarcastic, my sweet. I liked you better when you were dumb and gorgeous.
I told you he was trouble.
You did, my dear. You did.
I still don't like the Kyokugami, but having Wang snark at someone after a game's worth of being abused by Hoji definitely feels nice. I should probably also mention that I have no idea what the Moisture Farmer line was about. It sounded vaguely Star Warsy to me, but I don't know. Anyway, this fight I intend to abuse the firebomb fully.
You take care of the guy.
And then remember that the barrels around here actually do blow up. So katana it is. Anyway, to wrap up with the flamethrower, its low damage is an issue to dealing with the enemies, but it turns out it's not as low when it happens to you, and it is very easy to set yourself on fire. As a matter of fact, on the higher difficulties, I'd advise against using this thing at all, because you will pretty much inevitably end up dealing more damage to yourself. Fire resistant perk or not. Can anyone say Daikatana? Don't get me wrong here, the firebombs are great, in particular in this environment. But most of the arenas in this game are wide open.
Zilla wants this thing.
I freely admit that this is not the best time to open up the upgrade screen, but at this point I was so sick of this level I just wanted to be done with it.
Enra wants this thing. This sword is, apparently, the hotness.
I was into the sword before it was cool.
You should move to Portland and start a band.
This, I think, is one of the jokes intended for Americans, because I have absolutely no fucking idea what it's about. Anyway, the upgrade I purchased just added 10 more hit points. And this is much better than it seems, because it also increases the percentage to which we can heal up. By 8 health, sure, but the thing's got 3 levels, and I intend to get them all. Anyway, to wrap up the Flamethrower. It's a weapon that, even if you're using the secondary fire, comes with a big handle with care warning. And to be perfectly honest, it's probably not worth it. The firebomb doesn't really do anything that can't be done in a bit more time with the sticky bombs. I use it from time to time simply because I love big explosions. Now, this is the final fight of the level, and it is also one of the hardest. We already went over how Mother Demons and columns and cover and whatnot are a natural fit. Now we had it combined with Warlord, and while I don't have any actual evidence to support this, I do believe that enraged Mother Demons both do more damage with explosions and spawn eggs more frequently. After a while, the second Warlord joins the fray, and this becomes a mess of frantic dodging and trying to get off a shot whenever possible. If you remember, the Warlord Shield Jerk combo is fairly annoying because they hold you in place and Shield Jerks just pound on you. Well, imagine what it does when mothers are around. And it just wouldn't be this level if the fight didn't end with an onslaught of flyers. This time at least they're close enough for the sticky bombs to work. It's not that they're particularly efficient, but I just love the skish sound, followed by the shower of organs and blood from the sky. With a shotgun I'm actually allowing the advice of someone in the thread. Hunting flyers like ducks really hasn't occurred to me before.
Shooting demons is like shooting people, but without all the pesky moral dilemmas.
And it actually works remarkably well, so thanks for that. Now I'd like to dedicate a moment to the final part of this level.
What's this sword doing on a tanker anyway?
It's not actually a tanker. It's a deep-sea excavation unit.
That explains everything.
This ship retrieves things from the ocean floor.
The sword was on the bottom of the sea?
Oh, he's very bright when you give him a chance.
Just to wrap it up, the elevator comes so slowly that the switch seems to do nothing, and then you go poking around the room to see the results of the switch, and then the elevator comes and it's skish and goodbye wank.